Janet's second film of 1962, Bitter Harvest, cast Janet as a small-town girl who seeks a glamorous life in London, but her party girl ways lead her to ruin.
I couldn't go and live there. Everything's old. It stinks. The whole place stinks.
You don't have to go?
My dad has fixed it all up. The world's full of old people fixing our lives for us. I don't ever want to get old.
Morning, Blue Eyes.
Where's Violet?
Violet? Oh, Violet's safe at home. I expect we dropped her off. Did you have a good night?
Whose place is this?
Mine. It's not bad, eh? I've just made a cup of chow. I'll go and pour it out. Here we are. Here, mind, it's hot. Made with hot water.
Why didn't you take me home the same as Violet?
Couldn't find your village, darling. Anyway, you wouldn't go.
Who? What happened? How did I?
Don't ask me, love. I just shoved the pair of you in there and shut the door. It wasn't your first time, was it? Or was it? Oh, well. No, c'est la vie, as the French say, eh?
What am I going to say? What am I going to tell them at home?
Tell him you're a big girl now. Look, I've got to get weaving. There's grub in the kitchen if you want it. Help yourself. And the you-know-what's through there.
You can't leave me.
Well, appreciate the compliment, darling, but I've got work to do. I've got to live, you know.
Where's Andy?
Oh, he doesn't live here, though.
Where is he? I've got to see him.
He said he'd meet you in the King and Queen at 1 o'clock. That's a pub off the Edgware Road.
Where are we?
Oh, blimey, didn't he tell you? You're in the big city now, girl. You're in London.
You're too lazy to look at the clock. 4:15.
I'll be back by 5. You never told me what you wanted to see me for.
Doesn't matter, it's not important.
Oh, come on, you said it was urgent.
It was. Are you going to get up to this?
Yeah, I suppose I'm going to make a move.
Do you want to know?
What?
What I came to see for.
Oh, if you like.
Well, I've got the chance of a job modelling, that's all. I've got to try and earn whilst I can and get a bit put by. I was talking to this actor friend of yours, Charles, as a matter of fact.
When was this?
Oh, this morning he came up to buy some milk.
Up here? Charles was in here?
Does it matter where it was? Let me get it out, please.
Well, go on.
Well, he's going to this party tonight, and he said there'd be a lot of agents and people there. And he said I could go along with him and meet them. Charles says that's the only way to get in, is to meet them, sort of privately like.
Huh.
What does that mean?
You're not going, Jen.
Who says so?
I say so.
Since when have I taken orders from you?
Look, if you go to that...
Yes?
Look, Jenny, I'm only telling you.
I know. And I don't like it. Anyway, you can put your mind at rest. I can't go. I've got nothing to go in. That was why I wanted to see you. Wanted to get some money to buy a dress.
Oh, waste of time dressing up for those sort of parties. Girls always finish up with nothing on anyway.
Oh, very funny.
Oh, come on, Jenny.
Don't maul me. You're all the same. You get what you want and you don't care about anyone else. It doesn't matter about me, what I want.
Do you know what you want?
Yes, I do. I want to get on. I want to make something of myself, be somebody. Look. Look, is she any better than me?
Oh, Jenny.
Is her bust any better than mine? Answer me, I'm asking you.
Well, you knock spots off her, Jenny.
Right, so she's the same age as me. She's been in 5 films already, on television and everything, and you know where she is now, selling herself on the French Riviera.
And you want that?
I want something. I want something good to happen to me before I die.
I don't know, Jenny. I just don't understand.
Look at it. Just look at it. I used to dream about London. It's funny when you think about it. Sometimes I used to watch television at my friend's house. I used to sit there glued to that set. Glued to it.
Jenny.
In the plays. Even in the adverts. People had such fabulous things. Houses with dozens of rooms, and lovely furniture and terrific bathrooms, and swimming pools. And long white cars. Enormous white cars. People drinking champagne on aeroplanes. Aeroplanes going all over the world. And the women in such fabulous furs. I saw a film once where the girl had a wardrobe the whole length of one room with hundreds of dresses in it. And then you switch off. And you're back in the village. Where you've got this.
So that's it. So that's what you want.
I want some of it. I want my share. Why do they show us these things if we're not meant to have them?
Jenny, I love you. And as far as I'm concerned, you are somebody.
Well, that helps a great deal. The barman thinks I'm somebody. That's bound to get my picture in the papers.
How much do you want? For that dress? Need £10. £10.
Janet and Henry married on February 16, 1963. The couple took up residence on Faroes Island, which was located in the River Thames near Shepperton. Their home, the Sphinx, was the biggest home on the island. Janet said, "We found a lovely island house, and I started thinking more of our personal happiness than a career." But her life quickly turned ugly on the island. She came to refer to the island as Devil's Island. Janet's neighbors, Peggy and Eddie Chivers, spoke about them years later. Peggy said, "They had lots of parties and were great fun. Often, one or the other of them would fall in the river. Many times I ironed Ian's money to dry it out after he had fallen in." Henry was, without question, an alcoholic. Friends of Janet believed that it was under Hendry's bad influence that Janet began to drink heavily. Hendry would become violent when he got drunk. Eddie would sit with him and get him to calm down while Peggy took Janet into her home. Peggy said that Janet was a sweet girl, but she had problems. Janet made a dark comedy, A Jolly Bad Fellow, in 1964. She plays a pretty young research assistant to a portly middle-aged science professor. The professor is married to a lovely woman, but this doesn't stop him from enjoying a romantic getaway with his assistant at a seaside resort. The research assistant wants her lover to leave his wife and marry her. When he refuses, she threatens to expose their affair to his wife. He responds promptly by poisoning her.
No, thank you. I prefer to use my own, especially now. Oh, Carrie, you're a cruel, cruel man.
Now, what's this about a rat that ran and died?
Strange the others didn't.
What others?
I was just thinking that 2 or 3 people ran and died. Just like the rat. My eyes aren't just good to look at. I can see through them and maybe put 2 and 2 together.
Really?
Like you must have done when Fred accidentally changed the bottles.
What do you mean?
But don't worry. I've changed my mind about the job. I've decided to settle for marriage.
Marry you?
All right, laugh. I'm laughing. Don't forget, your future depends on me. Even now, I could stop you being John Aubrey Professor. You couldn't survive a scandal. No, thank you. My mummy told me never to take anything from strange men.
I admire you, dearly.
Really bright. But I know what I want. I want you. And I'm going to gobble you up. The future isn't going to be too bad. Got things to offer.
Janet's first daughter, Sally, was born on July 7, 1964. Janet said, "It was so wonderful having Sally that we planned for other children. That turned out to be a problem." She spoke about this in a 1970 interview. She said, "I gave up acting to have our first child, Sally. She's 6 now. I wanted more children. I swore I'd stay out of the business to be a full-time wife with my family, but I got lazy, lived in a muddle, and things did not go well with the childbearing plan." She felt lonely on the isolated island. She became bored caring for her baby. She drank and took pills to cope. Sally was only 6 months old when Janet worked on getting pregnant again. She said, "It was too early, of course, but I didn't know I have a weakness and hormone deficiency that makes me miscarry easily." She did, in fact, miscarry and, incredibly, went back to work on having another child. She said that she was a nervous, neurotic mess when she became pregnant again. Her third pregnancy began in September 1965. She said, "I was sick from morning to night." By the end of 1965, Janet's drinking was far worse than it had ever been. One day she ran out of alcohol and needed to buy more. She got into a rowboat and made her way toward the mainland. The waves were rougher than usual. The boat was swept over, and she disappeared into the water. At first, the police presumed her to be dead, which is what they told her husband, but she was later found. She had suffered a concussion and dislocated her shoulder. On March 9, 1966, Janet was taken unconscious to St. Peter's Hospital in Surrey. She had overdosed on sleeping pills. She fell into a coma. The doctors worked hard to save her life. Once she recovered, she was referred to the Holloway Sanitarium for treatment. What happened? Janet said that a doctor recommended that she go back to work. Hendry got her a part in his television series, The Informer. But, Janet told a news reporter, I got scared. I knew I couldn't face it, so that I had to escape. So I got terribly drunk. It was the day of reckoning when you know you are not in control anymore. There was no willpower left. Ian phoned that night, I remember, and we had the most terrible row. All I wanted to do was sleep, so I took some sleeping pills. Oblivion was what I sought, and what I took was an overdose. In a 1970 interview, she flat out stated, I took an overdose of sleeping pills. Hendry, who was sitting nearby, was clearly distressed about her saying this. He quickly spoke up to clarify that the overdose was accidental. Janet agreed that she was not trying to kill herself. Janet was 6 months pregnant at the time of the overdose. She lost the baby the following month. The good news was that she was able to stay away from alcohol for 5 months. But then she suffered a relapse. She explained in an interview 4 years later, I hung on for 7 months and then my third child was born dead. That's when I cracked up completely, mentally and physically. I started thinking that booze was the answer, but I was simply building up an escape route. My nerves were so bad I took tranquilizers and I was chain smoking. I kept bursting into tears and didn't realize the extent to which I was sick. She admitted, I went on an awful, terrible bender that lasted 3 whole weeks. It was a total blackout. Somehow I managed to crawl back to the hospital. Janet tried her best to put on a happy face in public. She said, if you can't laugh at adversity, you'll spend your life crying. You must accept your troubles and make them into a joke. She stopped drinking in 1967. Gabriel Hirschman, author of a Hendry biography, wrote, after Janet sobered up, she started to see Ian differently. Now she found his drinking boorish, boring, and intimidating. She attempted another comeback in the spring of 1967. The Derby Evening Telegraph reported, Janet, who was away from films for quite some time, is making one of the bravest comebacks in Mr. Sebastian, starring Dirk Bogarde and Susanna York. She plays Dirk Bogarde's tramp of an ex-girlfriend who is conned into betraying him to a nasty bunch of blackmailers. It is certainly different to sweet little girl parts she played for Maestro Disney. Janet, however, looking considerably less than her 32 years, rather dismissed her dark period. It was something which just happened, she said.
Hail Persephone, goddess of spring.
Ha, bloody ha.
It's afternoon.
You're a liar.
Anguish, despair, remorse. Where are your salts?
Kitchen. I was so stoned last night. I can't remember what happened or anything. Oh, I wish I wasn't so horrible. I wish I was nice. Oh, that's better. Stay with me a bit longer today, will you? And talk to me.
What about?
Who you are, what you do, all that bit. I don't know anything about you, except Saturdays.
I have got something to do today. It's why I came. To tell you.
All right, then, go. Hey, no, just a minute. Give me half an hour.
Janet said, those terrible setbacks left me so low and depressed that I found myself losing all my confidence and crying at the slightest thing. It took a great deal of talking by Ian to snap out of my doldrums and even more persuasion to go back to work. Now I've returned to filming. I am enjoying it so much that I now realize that I did miss it. She was willing to accept other roles. But, she said, that's only if the offers are attractive, and it doesn't mean neglecting my duties of being a good wife and mother. She and her husband wanted another child. She realized that she might not be able to have another child, but she was willing to adopt if necessary. Having children certainly comes way ahead of fame, she explained. Kim Holston, author of Starlet, wrote, Variety's review of her role in Sebastian might have described her real life. Janet Munro, once a Walt Disney thesp, scores very well as a boozy, fading pop singer. In 1968, Janet left Ian and the island. She rented a house for herself and Sally in Hampstead. She accepted the lead role in a 4-part BBC miniseries, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. In April of 1968, Janet traveled to the U.S. to appear as the outspoken maid Tweenie in a Hallmark Hall of Fame adaptation of James Barrie's play, The Admirable Crichton. Soon after, she approached the BBC with an idea to host a children's show that was entertaining to both children and mothers. In 1969, a drunken Hendry collided his car into a crash barrier. He suffered several injuries, including fractured ribs. Janet allowed Hendry to move in with her and nursed him back to health. Janet and Hendry rekindled their romantic ardor during Hendry's recovery. This resulted in Janet becoming pregnant for the 4th time. The couple's reconciliation didn't last long, as Hendry was unable to control his drinking. In May of 1970, Janet starred as Maggie in a stage production of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Her co-stars included Gary Raymond as Brick and George Coulouris as Big Daddy. During an interview with the Sunday People in August 1970, Janet declared that she was in good health. She said, "I'm within weeks of having my baby, and this time they say it's fine." The reporter noted, "She is vivacious and thin, even though pregnant again." Hendry was present during the interview. He said that they were preparing to star together as a husband and wife in a television series, The Adventures of Don Quick. The reporter described him as quiet, watchful, solid. On August 5, 1970, Munro gave birth to her second child, Corey. The baby girl was born 2 months premature and was 3 pounds. At this point, Janet withdrew from The Adventures of Don Quick. At the start of 1971, Janet acted in a television play called The Piano. She said, "We rehearsed from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. each day, which was good because it meant I could take Sally to school and do my shopping before leaving, and I was back in time to play with the children and put them to bed." She said, "I suppose my career will always be part-time, so much of my life will always be devoted to being a mother."
Mabel Etherington.
No,
Hey?
I'm afraid you made a mistake, Jeremy Plunkett.
What do you mean?
I'm Mabel Duckworth now.
Oh, aye.
I've been for the past 6 months.
6 months too long.
Well, then.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I carry your shopping?
Oh. How are you? You're putting on weight.
Who cares?
It's not good to get fat. Don't let yourself go, Jeremy.
Are you worried?
I'm fond of you.
So you married Willie Duckworth?
Very fond.
But fonder of Willie?
I don't want to see you go to pieces just because I left you.
Oh, my Lord. You're very sure of yourself, Mabel.
You need to be sure in this world, and a man as can't get by without a woman is a poor sort of thing.
You're hard piece.
No,
Make yourself indispensable and then walk out on me.
just being sensible.
Cold and calculating.
I know what I'm after.
Oh, the successful town planner and future mayor, eh?
Jeremy, you're jealous.
No, not of his success.
Then you're a fool.
And he's a thief, stealing my girl.
I love Willie.
Let's hope it stays that way.
And I don't love you.
Not what you said once over.
I were younger then.
Only 2 years younger than you are now.
2 years can make a lot of difference.
Long time since you were here.
8 months exactly.
Yes. Care to come in and look round?
Anything interesting?
An old bassoon.
Oh. I'd like to see it.
Come on in, then. And then we might have a bite of lunch.
It won't do you any harm to miss it.
In 1972, Janet spoke to the Sunday People about her role in a new television series, Adam Smith. She played a troubled alcoholic wife, Elizabeth Crichton. She said of the role, "I can just imagine them going through the reference books looking for an actress to play a neurotic wife drowning the sadness of a marriage in drink, then realizing that I was suited for the part so well." She talked at length about her personal life. She said, "When I married Ian, I had done all I thought I wanted to do in show business. I'd worked hard for success, but it had, now that I look back, come easily. Having children, what I then wanted most, didn't. I am an alcoholic. I've been in a loony bin, and I'm not ashamed to say so. I know how Elizabeth Crichton felt, why she spurned help, but I survived. It's a bit scary being suddenly single with 2 children at 37. I haven't worked out my attitude towards men yet. But I know it's best for me, the kids, everybody, for me to be working and having to go out looking for jobs for the first time in my life. I suppose I was silly ever to stop working. It has been very difficult to start again."
How is my husband, Adam?
Oh, you're awake. I thought you were fast.
No. Sleeping went early. Stupor I can achieve relatively simply. Sleep is something else. Did you see him?
Yes.
Did you speak to him?
Elizabeth,
Did you speak to him?
yes, in a manner of speaking.
You mean no?
No, I don't mean no. Well, he spoke to me, rather.
Did he? That was clever of him.
Elizabeth, if you want to sleep, I'll go. And
What is it, Adam? Is it the bed?
Elizabeth, come on now.
You've nothing to fear?
Oh, Elizabeth.
Really, you have nothing? You couldn't have discovered me in a more inappropriate setting.
Do you want to talk?
I don't think I want anything.
Well, I think you should. I think you should go into town and see him and talk
Did
this
you
thing out.
see his girlfriend?
Yes.
My, he really was clever.
Well, he invited me back to the flat. Sarah was there.
Mm-hmm. Is she nice?
Does it matter?
No.
She's a young, pleasant, friendly girl.
And I'm old, cold, hostile, a bitch.
Will you go?
Don't know what I'm going to do. I don't think I can survive it.
Have you talked to Dr. Calvey?
I rang him a little while ago. He sounded frightened.
David, have you spoken with him?
No.
But you rang him.
I thought I might get hurt. He sounded frightened.
Well, maybe he is. See him. I think he'll talk.
He doesn't need me. He's driven that fact inside me up to the hilt. I'm afraid to draw it out again in case I bleed to death.
Elizabeth, you must see Calvey. He'll give you something. You just can't cope with this much despair on your own. Let me ring him now, please.
Don't touch me, Adam.
Elizabeth. Elizabeth.
Oh, Adam, tell him to come. home.
Hey, you left your milk outside?
Adam, how nice to see you. You don't come nearly often enough. Go in and sit down. I'll get you a drink. Scotch, all right?
Elizabeth. 10:45 in the morning. Whiskey?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I reckoned without that deep streak of John Knox in you. Oh, well. Let me drink to an English education. Tea.
Elizabeth, please, sit down. I want to talk with you.
Oh, sounds ominous. All right. Well?
How are you, Elizabeth?
I'm very well. How are you, Adam?
David?
Oh, David's very well. He's always very well. He's building things, isn't he?
Please, Elizabeth, no more, eh?
Does it offend you, Adam? Don't you like to see a lady sloshed before midday? Do you like my latest? Do I get better, do you think? Oh, I'm so sorry. I must have had one too many. It's so silly.
What is it?
I can't even remember the last time. I think it was the party that you gave when Annie went to college. I did the rumba with Dr. Multy and ended up in a heap on top of him. He had 3 weeks in bed with a damaged disc, and David... I think David has another woman.
Tragedy struck again on January 11, 1972. While filming Adam Smith, Janet developed stomach pains. A doctor suspected that it was an ulcer and instructed her to fast for 10 hours in preparation for a stomach scan. Having gone without food for 10 hours, Janet became lightheaded. She blacked out suddenly and crashed her Vauxhall Viva car into a parked van. Her head crashed through the windshield. She heard her daughter screaming as she regained consciousness. Her face was so disfigured that the doctor was startled when he learned who she was. Her face had to be stitched up, and she nearly lost an eye. It took 130 stitches to repair her face. She was unable to see for 3 days. She continued to receive treatment at the hospital to remove scars. She was greatly relieved that Sally was only slightly hurt. Janet's divorce was finalized while she was in the hospital, but Hendry remained at her bedside. Hendry said, "What Janet and I had going for each other we'll never find again." Months later, Janet was having tea with her daughters when she collapsed suddenly. A nanny, Elizabeth McInnes, briefly revived her by massaging her heart and providing mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Janet made a slight recovery, but she died later on the way to the hospital. The coroner originally said Janet's death was the result of an accidental overdose, but it was later determined that she died from a rare heart condition. Hendry was heartbroken over Janet's death. He said that he would always love her. Why, if they loved each other so much, did they fight all the time? This was a question that journalists had. Hendry responded, "What did we bicker about? Any damn thing. We went through a lot together. She has tremendous guts, but she's just impossible at times. That's all." Hendry later admitted that he was haunted by memories of Janet years after her death. He said in a 1980 interview, "We had both been married before, but despite the earlier mistakes and lessons that should have been learned, the cracks were beginning to show. I loved her desperately, and I'm sure she loved me, but together we were impossible in and out of drink." He said that the stories of him beating her while he was drunk was just ugly gossip. Hendry said that Janet had come to see Pharaoh's Island as a place haunted by evil spirits, but he knew that their marriage was ruined by their own personal failings. Hendry struggled financially for the rest of his life. He made money from theater tours. He was greatly helped financially with a television series, For Maddie with Love. The income from the series allowed him to pay delinquent taxes and avoid bankruptcy. As his 50th birthday approached, he considered abandoning acting to write scripts, poetry, and music. He died on December 24, 1984. He was 53. Janet's father, Alex, blamed Hendry for Janet's death. He refused to talk to him at the funeral. Alex was a recovered alcoholic. Janet had seen his drinking at its worst while touring with him as a child, but he was able to overcome his craving for drink and didn't see Hendry as having the same strength. Alex felt that his act was never the same without Janet. In the 1950s, he substituted Janet in his act with Janet's 11-year-old stepbrother. Janet, who had unpleasant memories of her own time in the act, complained to her father that the boy was too young to embark on a stage career. Alex was given creative control of the Llandudno Pier Pavilion Theatre in the 1970s. The Alex Munro Show ran in Llandudno for 30 years. Janet's second daughter, Corey Hendry, died at age 50. Sally Fiona Hendry has indicated in her social media posts that she is working as a street dance choreographer.